Marble steps are cool at dawn. Olive leaves still hold the night. Smoke is curling slow and thin. Names I whisper to the light. Sing, oh, sing to the stones and sky. Let the old words rise. Let the old words rise. Feet on earth and eyes held high.
Hvad så, folkens? Welcome back to another video. Today we are heading into part 5 of the Cimbrian War. So we lost a huge portion of our force in the last episode. Marius was absolutely destroying them. And the Cimbri are now heading to cross the Alps, which I think is a terrible idea, and it looks like Sulla is going to give them a bit of a greeting. So I'm pretty I don't know, I kind of want to root for my countrymen, but I also like pizza, so this is a tough one, but let's see how it's going to go. Is my country going to win, or is pizza going to be a thing?
It is autumn 102 BC, and while the army of Gaius Marius is maneuvering to its tremendous extermination of the Ambrones and Teutones in a series of battles at Aqua.
By the way, why is it that the forces always crosses the river? Like, aren't you supposed to use the river to your advantage? I don't know, am I the only one who's seeing this?
Sextiae, the holding legions of Quintus Lutatius Catullus, are standing guard at the Alpine passes into Italy and feeling increasing apprehension and creeping dread. Although Catullus's deputy, Lucius Cornelius Sulla, has continued the sterling work he undertook for Marius in bringing nearby Celtic tribes to Roman allied status,
I'm really excited to get into Sulla's backstory.
as well as securing optimum supplies and victuals for Catullus's 20,000-strong force, it is becoming increasingly obvious that the legions are vastly outnumbered by the Cimbri and the barbarian...
Yeah, but how many are the Cimbri going to lose? Like, remember how many Hannibal lost? Like, it was insane. It was like, wasn't it like 80% of his forces?
Host that numbers in the hundreds of thousands. With no word from Marius or to the fate of his force...
Do they still have 400,000? I thought it was like 300,000, because like the other force had like 100,000. So I thought they were like 100,000 down.
Catulus makes the fateful decision to press forward with his 6 legions. He moves up the Atesis Valley to the elevated settlement of Tridentum and there attempts to engage the lethal Cimbrian horde before it reaches the peninsula of Italy. Should he fail, the road to Rome will lie open and defenseless before it.
Yeah, against 400,000.
The Roman army pushes into the valley pass, searching for any sign of the...
These valleys should be really, really good for the Romans, because it's really hard to maneuver, and especially now they start to use like the formations that I know of Rome. I've seen like in movies, I've seen stuff like that. So it should be easy for them to bottleneck a force. Go full on Spartan on them.
Oncoming hordes. But the only marker of change initially is the ever-narrowing walls of the mountains either side. The wind takes on a chill, and men wrap their cloaks closer around their shoulders
Yeah.
When the first figures appear at the top of the ridges,
Ooh.
looking down with unseen faces onto the isolated and vulnerable legionary columns.
Ooh, that's not
The
good.
weak late-year sun can make no inroads in this place, and the men now walk in constant shadow, the phantom figures overlooking them growing in numbers until they are a near constant presence on the horizon.
Bad.
Though Catulus's attempt to make a stand in the cramped valley echoes the strategy of Leonidas and his 300.
We're about to see a slaughter or something. If I was the Cimbri, I would like block the way of escape and just butcher them. But yeah, usually they don't take my advice. So
Battle of Thermopylae, the more pragmatic and militarily experienced officers on his staff, like Sulla, have no wish to become dead legends just yet. Sulla prevails on Catullus to draw back, providing the kind of sound advice from a fellow patrician that Marius hoped he would when he seconded him to the holding force, and Catullus eventually sees the sense of the argument. Ordering a withdrawal from the spooky and ever more hostile environment of the Tridentum and Otessus Valley, Catullus seems to have made his decision not a moment too soon.
yeah.
The Cimbri surge after the Romans, using their shields to slide down snow-capped slopes and ferociously attack the rear guards of the legions.
Ooh, smart.
The Romans use what missiles and other projectiles they can to keep the tribesmen at bay, deploying rear guards and cavalry sorties through the broken and frozen valley.
How many did the Romans lose here? It should be a whole bunch.
Until they are in the open and can form the wide deployments best suited to their style of fighting.
Cavalry.
The withdrawal is a close-run thing, and Catullus manages to get his still intact army to the Adige River. Orders are issued for the legionaries to begin constructing camps on both banks of the river, forging a barrier that will halt the tribes like salmon in a net. A bridge is constructed to link up with the bases across the
Did not know there was a city in the Alps.
water. Though the Cimbri are pursuing with vigor, the legionaries show their ability, and the improvised fortresses are thrown up in time.
Yeah,
the swarming units of Cimbri run into a hail of Roman arrows, javelins, and missiles, and their advance is brought to a surly and bloodthirsty halt. Catullus and Sulla survey the milling horde with satisfaction. The retreat has been humiliating, but their orders are to hold the enemy in place, and above all, they have avoided
I thought really they would do
another disastrous massacre.
That would have been way smarter, because they will have to deal with the chance of being attacked from other sides. They don't have to deal with that. But yeah, Sulla and Catullus are still pretty outnumbered, though. I don't really like those odds still, even when they have a fortress.
Like the Arausio. They order the men to dig in further and prepare to wait out the bad months with the lethal threat of the Cimbri held in check. For their part, King Boiorix and his federation have no intention of merely sitting still until the Romans assemble the overwhelming force.
Yeah, I'm curious what Boiorix is going to do, because he has shown himself to be pretty great of a general.
Necessary to massacre them. The king is aware that he has inflicted the greatest defeat on the Romans since Hannibal, even exceeding the Carthaginians' victims in number at the legendary Battle of Cannae. A man who has waded up to his waist in the corpses of legionaries will not be stopped by mere wooden walls and sloppy towers. First, he orders that the tribe attempt to cross the water at a different point on the river, but this is unsuccessful, and it becomes clear that Catullus is guarding the only fordable point. To remedy this, Boiorix mobilizes and invests the vast human resources at his command and sends out massive work parties in two directions.
A Roman scout.
Roman scouts observe in stupefied wonder the thousands upon thousands of Cimbri who have gone downriver. They spread out like a gargantuan pack of locusts and tear every tree from the countryside and roam the hills for rocks and timber. Catullus listens with incredulity as the scouts report to him that the Cimbri are
going to try to make a raft.
Are building a dam. Their obvious intention being to increase the water level at the Roman camps, flood the area, and swamp their defenses.
Smart.
Worse is to come. The scouts who have been spying on the work parties upriver on the Adige say that they too are stripping the countryside like whiteflies. But instead of making a dam, they are lashing timbers together into giant irregular objects that are neither boat nor building. Catullus and his scouts cannot discern the purpose of this effort until the dam has begun to raise the water level, and the Cimbri upriver launch the first of the timber bowls down in their direction. The amalgamated timbers are missiles, utilizing the surging current of the river to propel the titanic weights into the Romans' now exposed walls and the bridge.
Wait, they're going to destroy the bridge, so the Romans are trapped. Damn. Oh, damn, that's wild. Okay, that's pretty crazy.
Catullus and the rest of his command stand agog at the attack. It is an ingenious tactic. The forts are now under constant bombardment, and all the while the waters rise and the log missiles thunder into the ever more exposed timbers of the walls. It is enough for the greater part of the Roman rank and file.
Oh no!
While the more educated high command wonders how the tribesmen possess the skill to divert rivers and launch waterborne missiles, but cannot simply build their own bridge or boats to cross the river, enlisted legionaries begin to withdraw and disappear out into the countryside. Catullus knows that his position has now been rendered untenable, and Plutarch records that he orders another general retreat and then brings his standard up to the front so that his men will not be shamed by their panicked escape. The Romans do their best to destroy the bridge over the Adige behind them, and a force of 500 men is left in one camp to act as a rear guard.
Damn.
Once the Cimbri make their crossing of the river, they launch an attack on this holdout, but the defense is so impressive that they allow the Roman guards to depart as a gesture of goodwill. Catullus establishes a new defense on the Po, and the plains of northern Italy are now in the hands of tribes. Boiarix and his warriors gorge themselves on the wealth of the land, eating,
get more resources,
drinking, and lifting any valuables and people still unlucky enough to be in the area. With the campaign season coming to an end, they abandon the hard living of their recent travail.
Gaius is on his way to help out. Okay. Boiarix shows he's like absolute genius. I thought he was just going to like do what the Romans did with the Seleucid war, where they just shifted to like attack, just hire out defenders. Pretty impressive. Yeah. In some way, I can understand Catullus not wanting to face off against the Cimbri in a direct battle when you're like that outnumbered. But Marius does have like 30,000 or something. So the number, I mean, he should really add to the numbers here for the Roman defenders.
And enjoy the splendor of Italy, even though the Romans still consider land north of the Po a part of Gaul. Marius, in the meantime, returns to Rome following the elimination of the Teutones and Ambrones at Aquas.
Again, they should just ignore Italy and just take all of this territory. Build some defenses.
and declines an immediate triumph. Instead, he begins planning the next stage of the campaign in the spring. He also takes another consulship. The norms of the Roman political precedents and its mos maiorum system having now been completely abandoned. It is Marius's 5th term, his 4th consecutively, and he stands above all other men in Roman history. For the Cimbri and their king Boiorix, the land...
He's also the only one who has actually defeated the invaders for now.
...of the north of Italy are an ongoing wonderland in which all of their desires go fulfilled every day. By the time the spring of 101 BC has almost passed and the fruits of the previous year's harvest have begun to run dry, they are ready to push further and gain ever greater rewards at the expense of the weakened Romans.
Damn.
The Cimbri begin to search for a crossing over the Po to plunge further into Italy. However, they find that Marius has now joined Catullus, and that they have a strong force of more than 50,000 legionaries ready to fight.
Yeah, damn.
Though Boiorix does not know it yet, Marius has moved his victorious army south from Gaul, and they now form the steely core of his new force.
Damn.
Nevertheless, Boiorix is not intimidated by the host arrayed against him. The Roman army he liquefied at Arausio was 2.5 times as large as Marius's current force, and Catullus's repeated retreats in the previous year...
Was it? Yeah, it might actually have been. Wasn't there like 100-something thousand? I forgot about those numbers. Damn.
...have done nothing to restore Roman prestige. Now, after months of good living, the Cimbri are convinced of their invincibility.
Not the same commander.
But Marius too is confident, and when Boiorix seems unable to find a suitable crossing point on the Po, he moves his army north into the open to face the enemy.
Ooh, bold.
The Cimbri send emissaries with their demands. Land enough for hundreds of thousands of their people and their allies. Marius, sitting with Sulla, Catullus, and other proud senators at his side, shakes his head. There will be land in which to bury them. He wishes to do battle with the Cimbri. They and their kind will not further pollute the cities of Italy. The Cimbri reply that they will happily deal with the army of Marius as they did the army of Caepio, and then they will take what they please in the lands of the Romans. As soon as their allies arrive, they say, battle will be joined. Marius's eyebrows raise in surprise. What allies are these? He asks. Boiorix's ambassadors tell him that the Teutones and Ambrones will soon join them, as he has joined Catullus. Together, the peoples will have land from the Romans.
Yeah, they don't know. Damn.
One way or the other. Marius chuckles. The Teutones and Ambrones have already been given land, he says cheerfully. Disconcerted for the first time at this unexpected development, the Cimbri demand Marius explain himself. Now the Roman consul bursts into a deep and hearty belly laugh, waving a hand to his lictors. From a tent behind the conference space, a procession of chained men is led out, their faces cut and bruised, their bodies covered with filthy rags, and their eyes empty sockets without hope. The Cimbri see with alarm that they are the Teuton nobles and royalty. Marius's laughter subsides, and he tells the Cimbri that their allies have all the land they need. Those that are not in the slave markets are being spread as fertilizer by the farmers of Gaul. Their bones serve as fence posts. If that is the fate the Cimbri wish for themselves, then Marius will give it to them.
All right. This is episode 5. Damn. Part 5. Okay. Badass move by Marius, by the way. Damn. I did not know the Cimbrian did not know that the Hellas was defeated. Oof. That kind of sucked. So, yeah. We're about to see a pretty heavy battle. I'm really excited to see Boris and Marius go at it. It's gonna be pretty crazy. I'm gonna go straight to the next episode. So, yeah. Hey, I'll have the original link down in the description to the video, to the original video. Yeah. I'll be heading to the next episode now. So, see you guys later. Bye.
Bare feet in the furrowed ground, dust on my tongue, heat bearing down, sun like a hammer on my back, name I was born with, they took that. But my chains flow soft like water, running through this tired soul. You can bind my hands together, you can't cage what rivers know.